course, comes with plenty of sexualization on its own. I mean, I've been invited to Catholic school dances before, and I have seen some pretty wild things at them, but those moves that Britney's doing aren't leaving any room for Jesus. Now, in those early days, she was an undeniable sex symbol, but in interviews would outright deny it, telling Esquire in 2003 that, quote, "Look, if you want me to be some kind of sex thing, that's not me." Are you sure, Britney? Because you said this to a magazine that ran pictures like this of her next to the very same interview. Yeah, because all the innocent girls I know are doing photo shoots topless, pulling down their panties and covering up their private parts with giant strands of pearls. What did you think those pictures were for? It's not sexual, it's just artwork. Dear Britney, when the lyrics to your big song outright say, "I'm not that innocent," forgive people for being a little skeptical when you say that you are so innocent. That is all I'm saying. But back to 2017. It's hard to deny that Poppy is drawing some parallels here. Just compare this still of Poppy from the video where she introduces herself to the cover of Britney Spears' first album. Poppy also expresses the same kind of aversion to sexuality as early-era Britney did, albeit in subtler ways. Take a moment from the video for Poppy's biggest single, Low Life. She's seated at a table with the devil, more on that one later, who peels a banana, puts it in his mouth, and, doesn't start to eat it. That, sir, is a choking hazard, Mr. Satan. Didn't anyone ever tell you to chew your food? Sure, we don't see anything particularly graphic going on here, but Poppy's reaction tells us pretty much everything that we need to know. Sex is not a part of Poppy or her message, but the companies that manage, publicize, and basically create pop stars don't care what your message is. In the words of another pop star, Pink, and her song Don't Let Me Get Me, quote, "LA told me you'll be a pop star, all you have to change is everything you are." They want their stars to be sexually appealing because it gets them attention and helps them sell to adults while still staying innocuous enough that parents don't find them too harmful for the younger fans. And if they're able to pull off this balancing act, that leads them to phase 2, dollar bills. Admittedly, this is the most self-explanatory of the phases, but it's one that the creators of the Poppy channel definitely want to acknowledge in their story. The first indication of money that we get is in the video I Made $500, in which Poppy gleefully examines and counts a stack of 5 $100 bills she's received. How she earned that money isn't entirely clear, though perhaps it's the result of the video titled Tide Commercial, in which Poppy declares her love for Tide and talks about how much better her life is as a result of the detergent. But even more egregious than that is the song Money, which shamelessly promotes materialism with lyrics like, "Money can buy happiness, then why is it so fabulous?" We could draw parallels to pop music here, but it's pretty obvious. With fame comes money. But of course, with fame and money, there comes some drawbacks, and that takes us to phase 3, losing control of your message. If there's one way to make your fan base turn on you, it's becoming a hashtag sellout. Once a celebrity gets hot, their list of responsibilities goes way beyond just making music. At one point, Lady Gaga considered quitting music altogether, citing that she was unhappy with a variety of things, but especially being used to make other people money by doing things like selling fragrances or standing around taking pictures. When she stopped doing those things, she says, she remembered who she was, as though taking away everything behind the scenes restored her individuality. Similarly, there are outside forces that try to control what Poppy has to say in a lot of her videos. In Low Life, the first music video I talked about earlier, we see men in suits.
Fact. Coffee stains teeth. Unlike ordinary whitening toothpaste, Colgate Optic White has hydrogen peroxide that goes below the tooth surface for a smile that's 4 shades visibly whiter. Colgate Optic White. Whitening that works.
Ow! Who even hangs pots and pans from the ceiling? That is... Similarly, there are outside forces that try to control what Poppy has to say in a lot of her videos. In Low Life, the first music video I talked about earlier, we see men in suits and breathing masks and wheelchairs. The men behind the scenes pulling the strings and trying to get Poppy to sell out to the devil and his, banana. Poppy in this video is able to reject their control, as shown by her shoving them off stage. But fast forward to more recent videos, and this tide has started to change. In the video titled Shirt, Poppy is holding a t-shirt containing her lyric, "If money can't buy happiness, then why is it so fabulous?" Poppy looks off camera and asks, "What do you want me to say?" The answer we get is garbled and mechanical, but if you alter the pitch using audio manipulation tools, you get this. Just read what's on the shirt. At which point, Poppy reads the slogan. Later in the video, the voice tells Poppy to tell the people to buy the t-shirt, and she complies again. This represents a time recently after a pop star has become famous and is being pushed around to do and say and promote everything that other people want. In a more recent video called I'm Not Lying to You, we get another cryptic message from a skull that speaks to Poppy in reverse. Decoded, it says,
"The next word I'm going to say is yes."
But unlike before, this time Poppy doesn't follow instructions, claiming that
I used to be more honest, but now they won't let me.
in fact, Poppy makes a lot of references to an unseen but powerful they in many of her videos. So, who are they? Are they the businessmen who we saw on set with her? Well, yes, but it's also far more dangerous than that. And here's where things start to go off the rails. In Japan, we get the typical Poppy-esque statements like,
What is the difference between Hollywood and Japan?
and...
Will you come to Japan with me?
But towards the end of the video, the tone shifts, as Poppy urgently says to the camera,
Don't tell them I'm here. I need to escape. They don't want me to go.
and then the video cuts out. It's not just that Poppy is unhappy with her music career, it's that she fears she's in danger. And that's because she's a product of Phase 4, the Illuminati. Yup, the same group that causes videos to have more likes than views and is single-handedly keeping Half-Life 3 off the market is also keeping Poppy under their collective thumb. Okay, so seriously, this may feel like it's coming out of left field, but let me explain. Those who believe in the Illuminati, which is, according to theories, an all-powerful secret society that controls politics and media, and also occasionally practices in the occult and brainwashing, believe that many of the most famous pop stars in history are members. Britney Spears, check. Christina Aguilera, check. Lady Gaga, check. Taylor Swift, check. Beyonce, check. Double check and triple check. So if Poppy is truly the tale of the modern female pop idol, then the Illuminati being involved actually makes a lot of sense. Well, how can you tell if someone's in the Illuminati? Those of you whose heads aren't wrapped in tinfoil might be wondering. And there are essentially two different qualifications. One, the person must be famous, rich, and or influential. And two, they use the Illuminati symbols. Since, as this very scholarly looking website puts it, the Illuminati loves taunting the profane, that's us normal non-Illuminati people, by putting their symbols in plain sight for all to see. There are a lot of these symbols, but some of the most prominent include things like a single eye, also known as the all-seeing eye or the Eye of Providence, triangles or pyramids, skulls, and any other satanic images or symbols like the number 666. And you don't have to look very far to come across all of these in Poppy's videos. For a very prominent triangle symbol, look no further than Poppy's video entitled Membership Ring, which simply features a triangular ring and some dramatic music. Of course, the fact that it's even called a membership ring is pretty telling, as it would seem to indicate that Poppy's membership is in the Illuminati. Or, remember that video with the skull from earlier? Well, not only is Poppy talking to an Illuminati symbol, but that symbol is speaking to her. And there are tons of theories about satanic messages being hidden in famous songs that are revealed when they're played. So keep a listen for that in Poppy's next music track. Next, there are the eyes, and boy is the Illuminati watching in Poppy's videos. Some are obvious, like this still from Poppy's video for money. Others are a bit more subtle, like a dress that she wore to the iHeartRadio Music Awards that's covered in eyeballs. Or this moment from one of her early videos in which she puts her eye behind a hole in a donut. And if you're still not convinced, here's the bombshell. If you go to Poppy's homepage, impoppy.com, and view the source code, just take a look at what comes up at the top of the page. That, my friends, is the Eye of Providence with the subtitle Poppy Knows All. Just there, written into the code, not doing anything on the web page, but hidden just beneath the surface for theorists like us to find. Damn you, Illuminati, taunting me with your imagery! I, as a lonely profaned, are so... I don't know, what feeling is this supposed to evoke in me? Jealous! Beleaguered! Feel so beleaguered. So obviously there's plenty of Illuminati imagery hidden throughout all of this, but that brings us to the occult symbols and references. Again, some are obvious and some are less so. Of course, we've got the devil as the main character in Poppy's video for Lowlife, but also throughout that video we see Poppy in a very specific pose, seated in a chair with one arm pointed up and the other arm pointed downward, her fingers in a very specific position. This is a clear reference to Baphomet, a demon allegedly worshipped approved by the Illuminati and various other secret societies that allows them to harness the powers of heaven and hell. Even the seemingly random products that Poppy quote-unquote endorses have a satanic connection. Poppy's most recent product video promotes both Doritos and Monster Energy drink. Doritos could be construed as Illuminati symbols here, both because they're triangular and because Poppy awkwardly holds one over her eye for a moment, again creating the Eye of Providence. As for Monster Energy drink, there are some who claim that the drink is a symbol for Satan, and we're not just talking about the taste. I'll be here all week. Actually, Monster Energy drink's alright. The logo for Monster is an M made up of 3 lines, which each bear a decent resemblance to the Hebrew letter Vav, or 6. Put the 3 together and bingo, the mark of the beast, Vav, 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 the monster, 666. Tell you what, I'm never looking at Monster Energy drink the same way again. But there's another element here that I haven't addressed. Poppy isn't just a cute singer under the thumb of the Illuminati. There's a lot of evidence in these videos pointing to Poppy being a computer program created by the Illuminati. The video Transmission shows Poppy's personality speaking through a computer, which in and of itself wouldn't mean a whole lot. But in videos like They Have Taken Control, it's like she's literally upgrading her software to have new lines and emotions.
Poppy loves you and will always love you.
Even the title of They Have Taken Control shows that Poppy's personality is no longer her own. Add to this the fact that, in real life, the girl who plays Poppy refers to Poppy in the third person, like another person or personality. But what really gives it away is one of her latest videos, Some People. A video that prompted me to literally rewrite this whole episode's conclusion right before we finished editing it, because in it, she makes her usual general statements about different types of people. There's tall people, there are short people, blah, 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 blah. But it's the last statements of this video that confirm her as something not quite human. She says,
Some people have skin, and some people are made of plastic.
before turning to the camera and saying,
Feels so good to be a human being.
that turn to the camera tells us everything that we need to know. It's the director's way of signaling to the audience that Poppy isn't what she says she is. But another point of evidence supporting all of this is that if one Poppy steps out of line, it appears as though she gets replaced by another one. Consider the video titled Oh No, which features Poppy staring at the camera before a second identical Poppy appears, and the first starts to bleed from her mouth. It's a continuation of 10 episodes earlier titled Am I Okay? A largely non-important episode in this series until the final frames, which shows her nose bleeding. It's as though Poppy is deteriorating, falling apart, and new Poppies are having to take her place. In fact, it's probably Poppy getting replaced that's caused the other characters in the series, a skeleton, a plant, and Charlotte the mannequin, to have this conversation.
Oh, she definitely changed.
See, I told you. Wait, what do you mean she didn't change?
And it's worth noting that this Illuminati programming doesn't just apply to the blonde girl that we know as Poppy, it applies to us too. In both Step 1 and Step 2, we're instructed to look into the computer as digital sound effects play in the background, and Poppy encourages us to keep going.
You're doing great.
It's as though by watching this video, we're the ones getting reprogrammed. We're the ones getting brainwashed. Because in the end, that's what Poppy's true purpose is here. She's not just some other young, aspiring pop singer. She's the embodiment of all the conspiracy theorists' fears online. Another pop star and media icon manufactured by the Illuminati to distract us with catchy songs and bland phrases, a means of keeping us normal folk in line, distracted with consumerism, fashion, Monster Energy drink, Tide detergent, blissfully ignorant of the real things that matter, the Illuminati's continued dominance over world power. Now, am I arguing that Poppy and Titanic Sinclair believe in all these things? No, not at all. Poppy is a channel that wants to satirically portray elements of the life of a pop star, from the dehumanizing to the downright bizarre. And hey, if they get popular along the way from people like us and Reddit theorizing about them, well, that's a weird twist, isn't it? The music is pretty darn catchy. I've been finding myself watching more and more of Poppy every day, in fact. It's one of my favorite channels on YouTube. I tune in every single day to her videos. Every Poppy upload that I see in my notification feed is one that I watch. Oh, sorry, I got distracted there for a second. In the meantime, remember, that's just a
Poppy,
up
Poppy, Poppy,
and
Poppy.
Well, it finally happened, Zachary. Somebody burned down my she shed.
The she shed was struck by lightning.
Is my she shed covered by State Farm?
Your she shed's covered, Cheryl.
That's wonderful news.
Home insurance trusted by more people than any other. State Farm.
That is so dumb. Just need to cut my sandwich in half and... that's gonna leave a mark. Now, where are those stairs? Found him. Forget the stupid monster. The most dangerous thing in Bird Box is the second story. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, forcefully opening your eyes to the mind-scarring truths hidden in all your favorite movies. So Netflix is really hitting out of the park recently, isn't it? Between the choose-your-own-adventure movie Bandersnatch and the totally not a Quiet Place rip-off Bird Box, there's been a lot of bingeable theory fodder coming out of the ole... And while Bandersnatch might seem like the one that's more up my alley, considering the video game theme and all that, it's actually Bird Box that I want to tackle first, mostly because the movie had one question that I think we all want answered. What the heck was the monster? To catch you up, Bird Box follows a group of people trying to survive a worldwide catastrophe in which people are driven to kill themselves after they witness something. In order to survive, you have to keep your eyes shut, or else wear a blindfold, leading to this iconic imagery from the movie and all these other really dumb Bird Box challenge videos on YouTube. It's a really cool concept. Just like noise was the dangerous element from A Quiet Place, sight is the thing that gets you killed in Bird Box. But the frustrating thing about the movie is that you never actually get to see the monster. It's never made explicitly clear what exactly is driving everyone to this point of madness. So that is my goal today, to use all the clues that we see and don't see throughout the movie to rip off the blindfold and expose the Bird Box monster once and for all. Let's look at what we know. From the opening moments, it's made clear that when most people see whatever it is that they're seeing, they lose control and within a few seconds look for the nearest garbage truck to stand in front of, burning car to hop into, or painted glass to leap through. And this effect isn't just limited to in-person appearances. Greg, in the highest stakes game of FNAF ever, watches security cameras, sees the thing, and immediately knocks his own block off. It's important to note, though, that this isn't true for everyone. About midway through the movie, we learn from Gary that there are some people who've seen it and don't immediately off themselves.
These psychos from Northwood. It's a mental institution for the criminally insane. They took us outside, and they forced our eyes open so that we would have to look at the creatures.
It seems like all these people are either criminals or were already insane prior to looking at the thing. And rather than dying, they're instead left to worship it, serving as prophets trying to trick or force everyone around them to open their eyes and behold this thing of beauty.
Sorry that you didn't get to see. It is beautiful. So beautiful. It shall cleanse the world.
Though beauty must be in the eyes of the beholder, since these are the images that Gary draws of the thing after he's seen it. The other reactions we get from people who see the thing include...
Oh my god, what the is that?
And...
They're just so bad.
It's not outright terror, it's just more confusion. And lastly, we can deduce that whatever it is does have a physical form, considering that we actively see it casting shadows and setting off a car's proximity sensors in an early scene. But it also has limited ability to actually interact with the world, considering it can't open doors or pull off blindfolds itself, instead relying on its devotees to do the work for it. So that's a lot of information, but where does it leave us? Well, the movie gives us a list of possible explanations to test in the form of Charlie.
You got world religion and mythology that's full of mentions of demons or spirit creatures that takes on the form of your worst fears or your deepest sadness or your greatest loss.
Except we know that that isn't true of the Bird Box creature, considering the early responses of...
Oh my god, what the is that?
And...
They're just so bad.
Those responses don't scream, oh, this is my greatest fear, or oh, this is the worst loss I've ever experienced, or just like, oh, this is it, huh? That one might not have worked out, but don't worry, Charlie has a lot more hypotheses that we can put to the test.
You got the Akamana, you got the Barrios Devas from ancient Zoroastrian legend. You got the Surgat from ancient Christian occult beliefs. You got the Hulajin from China. You got the Puka from Celtic mythology. All different names, but the same thing, the end of us.
Man, Charlie, I know it's the end of the world, and I know this is all for your book, but you're even more melodramatic than I am. Many of the entities you just mentioned don't mean the end of us. Plus, you're lumped together a lot of spiritual things that are very different and all very wrong for the situation that you're currently in. So let's quickly knock them off the list one by one. Akamana comes from the Zoroastrian faith, one of the oldest religions that are still in practiced today, with its origins in the Middle East. And according to the Encyclopedia of Demons in World Religions and Culture, he's the personification of sensual desire and lust. He corrupts your morals and is said to cause people to sit back and watch as evil prevails. So if everyone in Bird Box were busy getting their woohoo on in the streets, then maybe he'd be the one at work here, but clearly that's not the case, and therefore he is clearly not our demon. Surgat is another one that he mentions that is also really easy to eliminate. Coming out of the Christian occult, he's known as the one who opens all locks, which directly speaks to his demonic power, the ability to open any lock in the world. This makes him a fantastic Mr. Beast to get possessed by if you're clumsy with your keys, but definitely not the culprit of a movie where the entity that's killing everyone is befuddled by a simple door handle. Moving on, the Puka is an Irish mythological creature that shapeshifts into different animals and plays pranks on humans, like turning into a black horse and taking people for a spooky, scary ride. But beyond that, it doesn't appear to be all that violent. Seeing it certainly doesn't cause immediate death. There are plenty of stories where the Puka actually gives good luck, another easy elimination, which leaves us with the Chinese Hulijing, and honestly, this one seemed like a good fit at first. The Hulijing are nine-tailed Chinese fox spirits with the ability to shapeshift, often taking the form of a person's dead relatives. They're able to make people believe the opposite of what's true, like a spirit who convinces you to take off your blindfold and see them because they're beautiful. And they're immortal, but that immortality requires them to consume human souls. A lot of things could really work here in the case of Bird Box. It seems like you can make a solid case for him being our mystery entity, except here's the rub. They can pass through walls. Well, send another possibility through the shredder. So Charlie in the movie took a lot of shots and missed them all. Maybe he should abandon that writing project of his and instead go back to his former job. Seems like he had a lot more success there.
I'm TS. We handle shit.
So now, it's my turn. And honestly, after looking at all the various behaviors of the Bird Box creature, no one explanation can truly encapsulate it all. That said, I do think that we can pinpoint the two lores that have combined to create the apocalypse that we see in Bird Box. For the first, let's look again at Gary's pictures. At first glance, these just seem to be a bunch of random spooky pictures, but upon closer inspection, you can definitely see some key themes emerging. First, the idea of exploding eyeballs, which is his artistic representation of the process of the pupil fracturing every time someone sees these entities. So with those pictures eliminated, as well as the ones of just generally scary or screaming faces, this is what we're left with. A bunch of pictures of monsters. Let's call them Horny, Tentacle Face, and Elephant Nose. Let's focus on Tentacle Face here first. It looks a lot like Davy Jones from the Pirates of the Caribbean, or it looks a lot like a creature that one would describe like this. Quote, it represented a monster of vaguely anthropoid outline, but with an octopus-like head whose face was a mass of feelers, a scaly, rubbery-looking body, prodigious claws on hind and forefeet, and long, narrow wings behind it. If you're familiar with your horror history, you'll know that tentacle face belongs to none other than the Lovecraftian nightmare Cthulhu, a name that I'm sure we're all vaguely familiar with, but might not know a whole lot about. So let's take a minute to talk about him. Cthulhu, created by author H.P. Lovecraft in his short story The Call of Cthulhu, is what's known as a Great Old One, a godlike entity that came from space and now sleeps under the oceans of Earth, waiting to be awakened. But not only does Fish Face fit what we see in Gary's little art project, listen to how the creator of Bird Box describes his monster.
There's a teacher who mentioned that a man would go mad, lose his mind, if he were to attempt to fathom infinity. It became like a monstrous concept to me, all right? So at some point, I started to think of infinity or something the human mind can't assimilate as a monster, and what if that idea was actually like personified? So on your front porch, infinity is on the porch swing, outside swinging. Infinity is out there, and if you open the door,
Mind you, this interview is from way back in 2015, from the earliest days when his book started to get attention, and long before the author realized that he needed to maybe a bit more mysterious in the way that he talks about his story. So the monster, as he saw it in his original novel, was inspired by infinity. That's interesting considering that the main theme of the Cthulhu mythos is human insignificance when confronted with the idea of infinity. Look no further than the opening lines of Call of Cthulhu, which outlines this exact premise. Quote, "The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. We live on a placid island of ignorance in the midst of black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should voyage far." End quote. Now, if that still doesn't sound like it matches Bird Box, just wait. You see, in Lovecraftian stories, when humans come into contact with one of these infinite beings, like Cthulhu, they go mad. Their brains aren't able to comprehend the magnitude of what they're seeing, and they literally go insane. But it also doesn't apply to all humans. A subset of people become worshippers of the Old Ones, just like we see in Bird Box. To quote from Call of Cthulhu, they worshipped, so they said, the great Old Ones who lived ages before there were any men, and who came to the young world out of the sky. Someday Cthulhu would call, when the stars were ready, and the secret cult would always be waiting to liberate him. And that's just Cthulhu. Lovecraft has a whole series of monsters in his bestiary that match the other drawings that we're seeing. Elephant face? That's a lot like the design of Shognar Fawn. Horny? Definitely close to the god servants named night gods. So we have creatures based on the concept of infinity that have massive size, match Gary's drawings, inspire cults of devoted worshippers, and possess faces that literally drive people insane. Monsters of the Cthulhu mythos match practically all of our requirements. Practically. You see, the Cthulhu explanation misses a few major marks. First, humans are to Cthulhu what insects are to us. Nothing. We can't be bothered. He's too busy living his best life under the sea alongside Aquaman and Ariel. That would explain why it shows no interest or urgency in opening doors in Bird Box, but Cthulhu also wouldn't be found chasing around a few humans on a 42-hour boat tour. It's just a waste of his and, quite frankly, most of the other Lovecraftian monsters' time. The bigger issue here, though, is the Bird Box creature's ability to harness the power of the dead. Up until this point, I've been dancing around one key issue here: the fact that the entity can mimic the appearance and voice of family members. And not just people it was responsible for killing either. In the opening moments of the movie, we meet and quickly lose a woman named Lydia. As she sees the monster, she calls out,
Mom? Please don't go. Please don't go.
The twist is that Lydia's mom has been dead for 5 years, long before this thing started attacking Earth. The movie doesn't bother to explore this, but to me, this is a huge detail that's critical for understanding the lore behind this thing. It's also critical to know that it's not restrained to mimicking just the dead. In an effort to trick boy and girl into removing their blindfolds, the entity mimics the voice of Mallory, our protagonist, who is still very much alive.
Girl, come with me. Take the blindfold off.
So what's happening here? Well, before I tell you the other half of this theory, do me a favor and remove those blindfolds for just long enough to hit that subscribe button. We have a lot of other cool horror movie theories headed down the pipeline, so if you've enjoyed this one, which it seems like you have, making it this far, then subscribe to get notified of when we cover ways to defeat horror villains, like we did with Michael Myers not too long ago, or predict what's gonna happen in upcoming horror movies like Us, which is a theory that should be coming out in a couple weeks now. If you're interested, do me the favor, hit subscribe. It helps out the channel a lot. Thank you so much. And now, with that out of the way, let's finish this mystery up. While a Cthulhu-like monster seems to be the physical being that people are seeing here, where are these additional powers and motivations coming from? Well, there's strong evidence to suggest that these elements are inspired by the Rapture, the event in some Christian belief where the faithful, both living and dead, are taken up to meet Christ. To use the original Bible verses, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16 and 17, quote, "For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God. And the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds, to meet the Lord in the air." Consider this. What if Lydia, calling out to her mom, is actually seeing her dead mother in the afterlife? And if Tom really is calling out to Mallory at the end of the movie, encouraging her to open her eyes and join him in the afterlife. All of these souls seem to be caught up together, just like in the rapture, where they would be encouraging others locally to join. If that was truly the case, and you have all these worthy dead people mixed up together like a big old yarn ball, it would be a beautiful sight, just like those left behind say that it is, despite their drawings suggesting otherwise. Speaking of those left behind, why are only criminals left behind on Earth? Well, because they didn't honor God's commandments and don't merit going up to heaven. They're not rapture material, you could say. And not only does it explain that, but this theory also gives clarity to a detail that's easy to overlook. Why these delusional prophets insist on opening the eyes of their victims instead of, just killing them. I mean, if the monster truly wanted these people to just kill off the rest of humanity, why wouldn't they just do it? Why resort to forcing their eyes open? It's so the victims can bear witness. In the Christian faith, a lot of emphasis is put on bearing witness to God's power. Isaiah 43 verse 10, "You are my witnesses, declares the Lord, and my servant whom I've chosen, that you may know and believe me and understand that I am he." Even Gary seems remorseful that he kills off Douglas without him getting to see the entity.
Sorry that you didn't get to see. It is beautiful. So beautiful.
How about the whole not opening doors thing? Revelation 3:20. "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and eat with him, and he with me." And I hear you, I totally recognize the concern too. What about everyone taking their own lives? If this is a rapture situation, isn't that a cardinal sin of the church? Yeah, it is. Absolutely. However, this is possibly a rapture-like situation we're talking about. Maybe rapture rules are in effect. I mean, think about it. Typical depictions of the event are a bunch of bodies just kind of rising up to the heavens, but that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, does it? Maybe the real rapture is just those who are chosen answering the call to free their spirits by abandoning the flesh, and doing stuff like garbage truck hopping is the fastest way to do it. You may have also noticed the odd motif of pregnancy. You see it with Mallory, you see it with Olympia. Is it a coincidence then that when referring to the day of rapture, the Bible specifically refers to it coming on like labor pains to a pregnant woman? 1 Thessalonians chapter 1. "Now you do not need to have anything written to you about times and dates, brothers, for you yourselves know very well that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. When people say there is peace and security, destruction will strike them as suddenly as labor pains come to a pregnant woman, and they will not be able to escape." It's a weird coincidence, right? Now, obviously, there's an elephant in the room. Why would the blind be left behind during a rapture scenario? And yeah, the meek shall inherit the earth. I don't know, not a perfect theory. Like I said earlier, I don't think it's any one monster or one religious belief happening here. A rapturing Cthulhu, a literal octopus Jesus, is really the closest we can probably get. There's just a lot of weird specifications that this thing needs to fulfill, and in the end, it's really more like an original creation for the purposes of the story, which, I gotta say, is never a bad thing. What? People coming up with an original thought for a change? Go figure. And heck, at the very least, my explanation of an octopus Jesus today is way better than what they were gonna put in the movie. Yeah, that veiny reptile baby was an early version of the monster that got cut. I gotta admit, for as frustrating as not seeing the monster was, not seeing the monster was a whole heck of a lot better than that. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And if you want to see more horrific film theory action, click the box to the right to see how to beat Michael Myers. Or if you want to see something that's a bit closer to home, check out our series on Salad Fingers. It's the creepiest animated thing that you're gonna see today. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a few more endings that I gotta get in Bandersnatch. I'll see you next week. Internet, welcome to Film Theory. Theory, the show that was cursed by a cult to kill everyone's childhood, one theory at a time. Today, though, we get to strike at one of fictional history's most prolific killers. No, not him again. He could even kill a bunch of hobbits. What? Oh. Yeah, I guess he did kill a bunch of people. Alright, so prolific might not be the right word. Today we're gonna take a stab at one of cinema's most famous killers, Michael Myers.
Yeah, baby.
Michael Myers, not Mike Myers. Michael's insane and inconsistent past has been covered in 10 Halloween movies. Technically, there are 11 movies in the Halloween franchise, but Halloween 3 had nothing to do with serial killers wearing William Shatner masks, so not really important for consideration today. And yet, despite it being the second longest running horror franchise of all time at 40 years, no one in that huge stretch of time has figured out how to finish off the shape once and for all. He is literally seen to be unstoppable, being brought back in film after film despite whatever damage he took previously. So I got to wondering, if I were a babysitter on Halloween night in Haddonfield, Illinois, the primary setting of the Halloween films, what could I do to not only survive, but be the one to finally stop Michael Myers' reign of terror once and for all? Now, if you've never seen Halloween or its army of sequels, then you're probably unfamiliar with its convoluted story. And if you have seen the movies, well then you're still probably unfamiliar with its convoluted story, since the whole thing gets retconned every time there's a new installment. Basically, Halloween is a Bildungsroman, a coming-of-age story of a young man named Michael Myers, who in 1963 opens the series by killing his older sister Judith. He spends the next 15 years in a mental asylum under the care of the single worst mental health professional of all time, Dr. Loomis.
Behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
Good medical advice there, Doc. On Halloween night in 1978, Michael escapes and goes on a classic road trip adventure, despite, it's worth pointing out, never learning to drive, since again he was locked in an insane asylum since the age of 6. Anyway, he does all your normal road trip stuff, stealing your murdered sister's gravestone, robbing hardware stores for Halloween masks, and teaching young teens the benefits of abstinence. And this kind of remains his MO for the rest of time, occasionally showing up always on Halloween night to slowly walk from point A to point B in order to murder some sexually promiscuous teenagers, long-lost members of his family, and the occasional hermit.
That keeps us stargazing.
Hermit, not Kermit. He's not murdering Muppets. Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, provides a deep and often detested backstory for this murderous killer, where as a child he was cursed by the Cult of Thorn to murder his entire family as this ritual sacrifice to some ancient gods, a backstory that is immediately erased just one movie later in Halloween Water. Wait, what? Halloween age 12? Yeah, that's what I said. Halloween what? Age 20? Oh, Halloween 20 years later. Age 20. That's stupid. That's a stupid name. And now the new 2018 installment takes it one step further by erasing literally everything but the very first Halloween movie, thereby making the only currently canon films in the franchise to be Halloween and its new sequel, Halloween. So stupid! It's so stupid! So we know his story, or at least as much as we can know about his story, but if we're gonna beat him, we need to know his power set. And let me tell you what a power set it is. He is slow, and he tends to use a knife. When he's presented with something like a gun, he also uses it as just a knife. Top tier killer, ladies and gentlemen. Some people seem to believe that he can teleport, but technically that's not true, because when he's arrested at the end of Halloween 5, he needs someone else to intervene and break him out of jail. Other people think that he's a cyborg because he bleeds yellow in Halloween 6, but again, that's also not true, because that yellow substance is just a chemical that he'd been injected with a few scenes earlier. So what makes this guy a murderer so threatening that I'm dedicating an episode to him? Well, to put it simply, he's unstoppable. Slap his face on a motivational poster because he is the embodiment of persistence. We've seen him shot and it doesn't work. Again and again and again. Jeez, guys, stop trying to shoot him. It clearly doesn't work. He survives multiple stabbings, long falls. He survives burning with minimal damage, beatings from lead pipes, and even Busta Rhymes can't get the job done when he tries to